What's up, mathematicians? Today we are talking about rounding numbers to the nearest 10 and to the nearest 100. Let's get to it. Let's say we have a number like 37. Well, right now we are going to round 37 to the nearest 10. Let me write this down. Round to nearest 10. Now, when we say the nearest 10, we're talking about counting by tens, so multiples of 10, and we are thinking about the multiple of 10 that 37 is closest to. So 37, what two tens is that between? That is between 30, and it's also between 40. Oops, that didn't come out right. 40, there we go. Now, I have drawn this number line as a visual. If I had to say where 35 was, it would be right in the middle, 35. Now, where do you think 37 is? Well, we could draw out the tick marks. They're not perfect, but we'll do our best, and you can imagine 37 is about there. Now, is 37 closer to 40, or is it closer or nearer to 30? Well, this number line drawing shows us that it is definitely closer to 40, meaning that the nearest 10 is 40. So if we round 37 to the nearest 10, we are rounding it to 40. And you can think of, if it helps, to say which 10 is 37 closest to, that's the number you're rounding. Or you could say move 37 to the nearest 10. Let's try another number. Let's do 62. Again, let's put up a visual. Now think about it. Which two tens is 62 between? If you thought 60 and 70, you would be correct. And about here is 65. Now where would 62 be roughly? Well, if I had to say it, I would say 62 is about there. Is it closer to 60 or is it closer to 70? Well, as we can see, it's definitely closer to 60. So 62 rounded to the nearest 10 is 60. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, does that mean that every time I round a number to the nearest 10, I have to draw a number line that looks like that? The answer is no. There is a helpful rule that allows us to know what to round a number to. And so the rule is this. When you are rounding a number, the first thing you're going to do, I should say to the nearest 10, let's do 53 as an example. The first thing you're going to do is identify the place value, the 10 place value. In 53, the place value of the tens place is 5. And if it helps to write out the place value, for sure do that. We've got the 3 in the ones place and the 5 in the tens place. So now we have 5 in the tens place, and the next thing we're going to do is look next door to the right. So we look to the number to the right, to the next place value down, and we say, okay, is this number a 5, 6, 7, not liking how I'm writing today, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9? Or is this number in the ones place a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4? Well, here, as you can see, the number 3 is a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So we are going to round down. We are going to round 53 to 50. And there's a helpful little rhyme that a lot of teachers tell their students. 5 or more, let it soar. 5 or more, let it soar. 4 or less, let it rest. And I really like this rhyme. I find it very helpful. Let me write it out. 5 or more, let it soar. 4 or less, let it rest. Let's try another number. Let's do 85. And let's see how our what our rule will tell us to round 85 to. So first, we are rounding to the nearest 10. So we have to identify where the tens place is. So here's the ones place, here's the tens place. We've found the tens place, so now we're going to go to the next placed value down, which is the ones place. And the rule is 5 or more, let it soar. 4 or less, let it rest. So when we say 5 or more, let it soar, that's definitely 5 or more. Let it soar means round change 8 to a 9. It goes up by 1 digit in the tens place. So 85 rounds up to 90. So you can see the tens place went up, and the number in the ones place will always be 0 when we are rounding to the nearest 10. Even if you are rounding the number 6 to the nearest 10, remember that's going to be between 0 and 10, and the nearest 10 is going to be 10. So we would apply the same rule. 5 or more, let it soar. 4 or less, let it rest. So the nearest 10, 5 or more, let it soar. We're going to round this up to 10. I hope that wasn't confusing. But like most things in math, practice makes progress. Now, what if you have a number that is more than 2 digits? What if you have a number like 344? Now, we are rounding still to the nearest 10. So the same rule applies. We're going to look at place value. Here we've got ones and here we've got tens. So we start off and then, here we got hundreds. Now the hundreds doesn't change, but we're going to start with the tens place because we're rounding to the nearest 10. And you can say to yourself, if you need a visual, well, 344 is between 340 and 350. And we're dealing with, think of counting by tens. And 344 would be around there, and it's definitely closer to 340. But if we don't use the number line, let's say we're pretty practiced at this, then we go to the tens place. We look at the place value to the right, the next place value down. 5 or more, let it soar. 4 or less, let it rest. Well, it's definitely 4 or less, which means the tens value does not change. And we round to the nearest 10 by rounding to 340. But if it was the number 348, we would actually round to 350. The nearest 10 would be 50. Or rather 350, I should say. Now, what if, you might be asking, what if there is a number like 39, not like 39, let's do 398. And you want to round to the nearest 10. Write that 8 better. Now, in this case, again, you're going to look to the tens digit. We're rounding to the nearest 10. Here's the tens digit. You're going to look at the next place value down, which is the ones digit. And it's 5 or more, which means we got to increase the tens digit by 1. But if we do that, we're going to turn 9 to 10, right? Well, we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to make the 9 a 0 and increase the hundreds place by 1. And then the ones place is always a 0. So we get 400. And again, if you need a visual to double check your answers, 398, that is between 390 and 400. There's 395 in the middle, and 398 would be about there. So it checks. Now, what if you are rounding to the nearest hundred? Well, the same principle applies. Let's say you've got 475. But this time, rather than rounding to the nearest 10, you are rounding to the nearest 100. We're playing a different ball game here. So instead of looking at the tens place, we've got ones, we've got tens, we've got hundreds. Instead of looking at the tens place, we're going to look at the hundreds place value, the hundreds place, which is a 4, and the same principles apply. We go next door, the next place value down, and it's a 7. Now remember our rule. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we round the hundreds digit up. And the rest of the numbers become all zeros. And why does that make sense? Well, imagine you're counting by hundreds. 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, etc., right? And so we're living in the world of hundreds, and 475 is between 400 and 500, and somewhere in the middle is 450. And 475 is about here. And which 100 is it closer to? It's definitely closer to 500. Now what if, let's do one more example. What if we had the number 312 and we want to round it to the nearest 100? Well, the first thing we have to do is find the 100 place value. Well, there it is, the 100 place value. If you need to underline it, that might help. Run to that again. And then we're going to look at the place value immediately to the right, the next place value down, and it's a 1. And 4 or less, let it rest. This is definitely 4 or less. So let it rest means we're going to let the hundreds place rest, and we get 300 as the number that we are rounding 312 to. You might ask yourself why we even round numbers, and as you continue to learn a lot more in math, you're going to find really a lot of value in it. And one example, of course, is think about if you ever use actual real-life money. Let's say you go to the store and you see a trinket, let's pretend it's a baseball trinket, and it costs 50 cents. I don't know many things that cost 50 cents anymore, but there was a time when a little trinket would cost 50 cents. And let's say you want to round it to the nearest 100 because all you have in your pocket is a $1 bill. Now remember, a $1 bill is the same as 100 pennies, and 50 cents is the same as 50 pennies. So if you say to yourself, well, do I have enough money? Let me think. 50 cents, or let's say you have 55 cents or whatever, is closer to 100 than it is to 0. So sometimes using rounding, especially when we have money, is helpful for figuring out how much money we need for something. So obviously with $1, which is 100 pennies, you have more than enough for this baseball trinket. I hope that was an adequate example. Let's do a few practice questions. Okay, 36. Round this to the nearest 10. If you thought to yourself 40 is the answer, you are correct. What about 77? If you thought to yourself 80 is the right answer, you are correct. What about 320 rounded to the nearest 100? If you thought to yourself 300, you are correct. What about 461 rounded to the nearest 100? And if you thought to yourself 500, you are correct. Again, practice makes progress. Till next time.